The weapon in disguise, she opened her eyes inside a quiet steel room, where light never changed and silence never broke. Her body felt light, but full of energy. She walked with silent steps across the cold floor. Around her were machines that never slept and screens that showed her every movement. She was trained to fight. She was trained to destroy. She was trained to kill. Not with weapons or blades or fire, but with a bite. Her creators watched from behind glass. They never showed emotion. They never spoke in kindness. They only gave commands. She had no name, no memories, no dreams. She was made to serve. Born from science, built in a hidden lab on a cold, barren moon. Far from any sun, they told her what she was. She carried venom in her blood, strong enough to stop a giant's heart. Strong enough to melt the nerves of the toughest beasts. Her bite could end lives within seconds. She had already tested it on other species. Creatures from distant stars fell before her sharp teeth and glowing eyes. None survived. None escaped. Her mission was always the same. Get close, bite, kill. But her final test was different. This time the target was human. Humans were strange to the creators. They feared them, but also wanted to control them. They said humans were too strong, too clever, too stubborn. The creators had failed to conquer them through war. Now they tried through silence, through secrets, through Hirsch. She was prepared with a false story, a fake history. They gave her human clothes and taught her how to act weak, how to act lost. She would be placed near a human outpost on a mining station. From there she had to find a human, get close, test her bite, and report the result. If the human died, the plan would move forward. If not, she would be removed like a broken tool inside the ship that carried her to the human zone. She sat still, watching stars pass outside. She felt no fear, no guilt, no anger. She had no reason to feel. Her hands rested on her lap. Her breath stayed slow and steady. She was just a tool, a living weapon. That is what she believed, but something strange stirred inside her when the ship neared the human zone. She saw the lights of the station shining like fireflies around a gray planet. She saw ships flying in and out like birds in the sky. And for the first time she wondered what it would feel like to live there, not as a weapon, but as a person. The ship landed on a quiet deck. She stepped out alone, dressed like a lost traveler with fake ID and silent thoughts. She walked through the metal hallways of the station, searching for a human. Then she saw him, a young human, crouched near a broken panel, fixing wires with steady hands. His face was calm, his voice soft as he hummed a tune. He looked up and smiled at her. Need help? You look new around here. She stared at him without a word. Come on, I can show you around. Not many friendly faces out here. He stood up, wiped his hands, and waited. She nodded, slowly followed him, and said nothing. She was near her target, but for the first time in her life, she hesitated. The human named Leo. The girl walked behind him through the narrow paths of the station. Her steps were quiet. Her eyes moved fast, scanning every corner, every wall, every vent. Her mind stayed sharp, ready to strike if needed, but nothing felt right. The man did not act like her targets from training. He was calm, without fear, without weapons, without suspicion. He opened a door and led her into a small room filled with tools, wires, parts, and blinking lights. Machines lined the walls, buzzing with soft sounds. On the desk lay a metal device half open with its circuits glowing. He looked back at her with a smile that held no threat. You can sit if you want, not the fanciest place, but it works. She sat on a crate, kept her hands still, and watched. He moved around the room, fixing wires, adjusting screens, tapping on consoles. His hands worked fast, his eyes focused, but now and then, he glanced at her like he wanted to say more. What's your name? Where are you from? She paused, thought of the fake name they gave her, but said nothing. Instead, she gave a slight shrug, looked down. He laughed gently, scratched his head. Quiet type. Huh, that's fine. I don't talk much either when I'm working. He handed her a warm cup of something with steam rising from it. She held it without drinking. Her body could break toxins with ease, but she did not trust the smell, the taste, the idea of it. Still she watched him drink from his own cup, smiling between sips. The hours passed slowly. She stayed in that small room, listening, watching, feeling something she could not name. He did not push her with questions. He only talked about the station, about the work, about the long hours, and the empty silence of space. "Sometimes I wonder why I stayed here," he said once. "This station is half broken, and the pay is low, but I guess I just like building things, fixing what's broken, keeping systems alive." She tilted her head at those words. Fixing what's broken. Was she broken too? Was that why she could not bite him, could not attack, could not follow the mission days past? She stayed near him, helped with tools, passed him wires, held panels while he worked. She said very little but listened to everything. She learned how power moved through cables, how pressure systems kept the air clean, how balance was key in zero gravity. She learned something else too: humans were different. They laughed even when tired. They shared food even when low on supplies. They listened even when others stayed silent. They carried pain without showing it, and kept hope like a flame in a storm. One night, the alarm screamed through the station. A leak in the lower bay, a crack in the power core, pressure dropping fast. She followed him through the shaking halls, climbed metal ladders, ducked under pipes, helped him reach the core. Smoke filled the air, heat rose from below, sparks flew around them. He worked with speed, ignoring the danger. "Hold that beam steady, I need 10 more seconds." She held it without blinking, used her strength to keep it from falling. Heat touched her arms, pain tried to rise, but she pushed it down. "Got it," he shouted with joy. As the power returned, systems lit up and the shaking stopped. They sat on the floor, breathing heavy, covered in dust and sweat. "You saved me back there," he said, with a tired smile. Not bad for someone who barely talks. She looked at him, felt her heart beat faster, not from fear, but something else, something new. Later that night when he slept, she stood over him in silence. Her mission echoed in her mind. Bite him now, send the signal, complete the task. But her hands trembled. She knelt down closer to him, looked at his calm face, his quiet breath, his soft features, and she could not do it. Her teeth stayed hidden. Her mouth stayed shut. She walked away from his side and stared out the window at the stars. She did not know what was happening to her, but she knew one thing. She no longer wanted to be a weapon. The bite that failed. The stars outside the station moved slowly like silent watchers in the dark sky. Inside the cold steel walls, the girl sat alone near the window, her hands resting on her knees, her eyes lost in thought. Her body stayed still, but her mind raced with confusion. She was made for one purpose. She knew the truth of her creation. Her bite was not a gift. It was a tool of destruction. Every part of her being was shaped to carry death. She was trained to hide it behind soft eyes and quiet words. But now something inside her was breaking apart. The human named Leo continued to treat her with kindness. He did not ask for anything in return. He trusted her without reason. Each morning he offered her food, even when supplies were low. Each evening he shared his thoughts about stars, about space, about life. She listened without speaking much. But his voice became familiar. His presence felt safe. And that made everything harder. The command inside her head still echoed every night. Test the bite, complete the mission, report the outcome. She knew what the creators would do if she failed. They would send others. They would erase her. She would become nothing again. A memory lost in the system. Then came the day that changed everything. A sudden storm of ice rocks hit the edge of the station. The defense shields flickered. One rock tore through a lower wall, creating a breach. Pressure dropped. Oxygen levels fell. Power went dark in half the station. Leo rushed to fix the damage. He worked through falling debris, cold winds, sharp metal. The girl followed close behind. She helped him carry tools, lifted broken panels, held cables while he reconnected circuits. While trying to seal a damaged door, Leo slipped on a wet floor. A sharp beam fell and struck his shoulder. Blood appeared fast as breathing turned shallow. He leaned against the wall, struggling to stay awake. "I can't feel my arm," he said, with a weak laugh, still trying to smile through pain. The girl dropped to her knees beside him. Her hands shook. She looked at the wound, looked at the red lines on his skin. She had no healing tools, no med kit. Nothing to stop the bleeding. Only one thing remained, her bite. She remembered her training. The venom inside her could kill. But in the early experiments, it had also triggered strange effects on weak organisms. Some recovered faster. Some gained strength. Some showed resistance. She made a choice. She leaned down, opened her mouth, and bit his arm. Just near the wound, not deep enough to tear, only enough to let the venom pass into his blood. Then she waited. Seconds passed like hours. Leo's eyes closed, his breath slowed. She touched his neck, felt no change. Fear rose in her like fire. What if he died? What if she had ended the only person who showed her kindness? But then he moved, his breath returned stronger, his eyes opened wider. He looked at her with confusion, then with peace. "Strange dream I had," he whispered. "Your teeth were glowing." She did not answer. Her hands still trembled. Leo sat up slowly, his strength returning faster than normal. The wound on his arm began to close. The color of his skin returned. His pain faded. "That's new," he said with surprise. "I feel better, not worse." Watched him closely. No reaction to the venom. No signs of damage. Nothing. The test had failed. He had survived her bite. The mission was broken. She stood up, walked away from him, found a dark corner, and sat alone. The weight of her choice pressed down like stone. Somewhere far above, in hidden shadows, her creators watched the data feed. They saw the result. The girl had failed. A signal was sent through silent channels across the stars. Terminate the subject, retrieve, or destroy, erase all traces. The clock had started. They were coming for her. The escape plan. The station slept in silence as the girl moved through the empty halls. Her steps were quick, her eyes sharp, her heart heavy. The failure of her bite had not only broken her mission, it had broken the trust of those who made her. She felt it in her blood, in the cold air around her. The Watchers were no longer silent. They were angry. They were ready to erase her. She entered the main chamber where Leo worked late, as always, fixing a damaged power grid. He looked up as she stepped inside and gave her the same warm smile she had seen many times before. "You look like you haven't slept in days." "Something wrong?" She did not speak right away. Her hands clenched, her mind raced. She had never shared the truth. But now there was no time left. She stepped closer, stood in front of him, and looked into his eyes. "I was not lost." Leo blinked, not understanding. "I was sent here by force, by them. I was made to destroy, not to live, not to feel, not to choose." He stood still as her voice shook, as her hands opened, as her words spilled out like rain on dry ground. She told him about the lab, the training, the venom, the test. She told him about the bite. She told him he should have died, but he had not. Leo listened without anger, without fear. When she finished, he took a slow breath and walked to her side. "You had the chance to hurt me, but you didn't. That matters more than what they made you for." She looked away, her voice low. "They are coming to erase me." "Then we stop them," he said with fire in his voice. The plan was simple but dangerous. The station had an old hidden comm tower used for deep space signals. If they could reach it, send proof of the weapon program, the Watchers would lose control. The council across the stars would hear the truth. But they had little time. That night, as the stars turned above, the station doors opened without sound. Shadows entered, silent, fast, deadly. They moved through the halls with orders to retrieve or remove Leo, and the girl had already left the lower decks. They climbed narrow shafts, past broken lights, crawled through vents and old tunnels no longer used. Deeper they went, the louder the alarm inside her mind rang. They are near, they are watching, they are close. In one of the side halls, a shadow stepped out. A figure in black armor moved to block them. The girl saw the weapon in its hand, a dart gun aimed at her head. Leo reached for a pipe to fight, but she stepped forward. "This one is mine." She rushed the figure with speed she had hidden for too long. Her body twisted, her feet slammed into the floor. Her hand grabbed the weapon and crushed it. The figure tried to strike, but her bite found flesh before it could react. The venom worked on the hunter. The body dropped silent and cold. Leo stared at her with wide eyes. Remind me not to make you mad. They kept moving. The final hallway led to a door locked with codes long forgotten. Leo worked on the panel, his fingers flying. Behind them, more shadows closed. "It almost done. Just a few more lines," he said. She turned to face the dark tunnel, ready to fight if needed. Her arms strong, her breath steady, her purpose clear. The door opened inside. The room stood the old tower covered in dust, still shining with power. Leo moved to the console, started the upload of the hidden files, data stolen from the girl's memory records of every test, every order, every kill outside the room. The shadows arrived. Leo grabbed her hand. "We have to run." Now she shook her head. "You run. I hold them here, not leaving you," he said loud and firm. "Then stay with me together." They blocked the door with heavy boxes, wires, panels, anything they could find. The upload bar moved slow but steady. Outside, the metal cracked under pressure. The girl looked at Leo. "If I do not survive this, you must finish what we started." He reached out, touched her shoulder. "We survive together, or not at all." The upload reached full. The message flew across space toward the council. Now all they had to do was hold the door. She chose humanity. The door shook again as something heavy slammed into it from outside. Sparks fell from the edges, dust filled the air, wires snapped from the ceiling. The girl stood in front of the entrance, her body ready, her eyes focused. Leo stayed behind her, holding a broken pipe in one hand, a fire extinguisher in the other. They had sent everything to the council. The truth was out. The lies, the experiments, the mission, the bite. The files had left the station before the attackers arrived at the door. Now they only had to survive. The door bent inward under pressure. The metal creaked louder with each second. Leo moved beside the girl, his face filled with fear and courage at once. "If we die here," he said, "at least we made sure someone hears the truth." She looked at him and nodded. But deep inside her heart, she did not want to die. Not now, not after everything she had learned. Not after meeting him. The final strike broke the door open. 3 dark shapes entered the room, fast and silent. Weapons ready, eyes cold. The girl stepped forward and met them with everything she had. She moved faster than any of them expected. She used her arms, her legs, her teeth. She dodged sharp blades and burning darts. She knocked one into a wall with a hard kick. Another reached for Leo, but she blocked the path with her body. She felt heat across her shoulder, pain across her side, but she kept moving. One of the attackers grabbed her arm and tried to pull her down. She turned and bit hard. The venom flowed fast. The figure screamed and dropped. Her strength began to fade, but her will stayed strong. Leo hit the last one with the fire extinguisher full force. The enemy fell, but not before striking the girl across the back. She dropped to her knees, breathing heavy, blood on her hands, sweat on her face. Leo ran to her Sid. "Our hurt," he said, trying to lift her. She looked at him, weak, but Olivia's still here. They stayed in that room for what felt like forever. No more enemies came. No more shadows moved. The alarm lights slowed and stopped. Silence returned. Hours later, a signal reached the station. A council ship had received their message. Proof had been confirmed. The weapon program was exposed. The labs were shut down. The creators were arrested. The order to erase her was canceled. She was free. The girl was taken to a healing center, orbiting a peaceful planet. She spent weeks there, recovering her strength. Doctors studied her venom, not to harm but to understand. They discovered it could be used to fight disease, to repair nerve damage, to help soldiers recover faster after injury. Her curse became a cure. Leo stayed with her through the healing. He brought her food, told her stories, sat with her in the quiet nights. He never left. When she was strong again, they gave her a choice. She could leave She could hide. She could live. Alone, but she looked at Leo and made her choice. I want to stay. I want to help. I want to build, not destroy. She joined a team of science workers on a ship that traveled between stars. Her job was to help stop bioweapons, protect planets, teach others what had been done, and make sure it never happened again. Leo became her partner in every mission together. They fixed what others broke together. They saved lives. Her past would always be part of her, but it no longer controlled her. She had chosen her path. She had chosen humanity, and that changed everything. The end.